In the marshlands of Georgia, where the water meets the earth in silence, there is a place called Igbo Landing. But long before it became a name in history, it became a legend, a story of capture, resistance, and a decision that would echo across centuries. Before the Atlantic Ocean became a graveyard of stolen lives, the people we now remember were free. They were part of the Igbo people of southeastern Africa. They lived in organized communities, villages led by elders, guided by tradition, law, and spirituality. Their society valued personal dignity, collective responsibility, spiritual connection to ancestors, and freedom as a sacred right. But in the late 1700s and early 1800s, that world began to collapse under the pressure of the transatlantic slave trade. Raiders and traders, some internal, many external, disrupted villages. Families were torn apart, and thousands were forced toward the coast. They were sold into the transatlantic slave system, loaded onto a ship bound for North America. This journey is known in history as the Middle Passage. Conditions were inhuman. People chained together, suffocating heat below deck, disease spreading rapidly, water and food scarce. Many did not survive the crossing. Those who did were brought toward the coast of Georgia, near what is today St. Simon's Island in Glynn County. In 1803, the surviving captives were being transferred from a larger vessel to a smaller boat at Dunbar Creek. This location would later be known as Igbo Landing. The enslaved Africans were exhausted, traumatized, and far from home. But they were not without will. At this moment, something changed. According to oral histories preserved in African American communities, the captives resisted. They rose against the crew during transport. Some accounts suggest they overpowered and drowned their captors. Others say they seized control of the boat briefly before refusing further submission. There are no complete written records from the enslaved themselves, but all versions agree on one fact: they resisted. After the revolt, the group reached the marshland of Dunbar Creek. What happened next is one of the most debated and powerful acts in American slavery history. Instead of dispersing, instead of attempting escape into a hostile land, they made a collective decision. They turned toward the water and began to walk. Slowly, silently, together. The marsh surrounded them, quiet, still, endless. Step by step, feet into water, then knees, then waist, then chest. No panic, no chaos, only unity. In some versions passed down through generations, a leader speaks. "The water brought us, and the water will take us home." This reflects a deeply rooted belief in spiritual return and ancestral connection. Historically, what exactly happened at the final moment is not fully documented. But within African American oral tradition, something else emerged. The story transformed into the legend of the Flying Africans. In this version, they do not drown, they do not disappear, they rise above the water and fly back to Africa. This transformation is not just myth, it is cultural memory, a spiritual response to unimaginable oppression. Igbo Landing is not only about death, it is about agency. Even in captivity, these individuals resisted, chose unity, rejected total submission, and asserted control over their fate. In historical terms, it stands as one of the clearest symbolic acts of collective resistance in slavery history. Today, the waters of Dunbar Creek remain still, but the story does not rest there. It lives in African American folklore, cultural memory, literature, and identity. Because at Igbo Landing, something extraordinary happened. Not just a tragedy, but a declaration that even in bondage, the human spirit can refuse to be owned. History remembers chains, but Igbo Landing remembers choice. If you enjoy the story and want more stories like this, subscribe to the channel at Africa Folktales, Movies and Storytelling.